Hey everybody, wanted to give another video today, kind of bouncing off of some of the last two that I've done concerning praying for your wife and praying for your children, praying for your family. Some of the things that have been going through my mind here the last 24 hours. Well, actually, more than that. It's been actually a couple months. It's been this theme of awake, wake up, awaken. You know, that's sort of the prayer, is that I have this sense of being asleep on some level. It's scary because you can let life just go by and you're asleep. You're not fully awake. You're not engaging with all of your capacity about what's happening around you. You're just not quite, have you ever done that? Kind of gotten woken up suddenly out of sleep and you're awake enough to realize you're not awake yet, and you're trying to think and trying to, where's my coffee? I got it so I can get my brain. It's this weird sense, and so I wanted to give maybe a little bit of a. I wanted to try to articulate some of that for motivation's sake, for us all to wake up and do the things that we're called to do, that we must do. And so let me start out with this. Isaiah 60 says, "Arise, shine, for your light has come, and the glory of the Lord has risen upon you. For behold, darkness will cover the earth, and deep darkness the peoples. But the Lord will rise upon you, and his glory will appear upon you." See, there's a promise there, and it's speaking of Christ shining on you. And actually, I'm going to reference Ephesians 5:14 through 16, which is, wake up, awaken, let Christ shine on you. That's the call. That's the agreement. That's the cry of the heart that we all need to really be crying out. Awaken me, Father. Awaken me. Awaken me. Help me come to my senses and step up to the plate and face the fear and step up into Christ and use all the weapons that we've been given, everything he paid for, using it all, learning how to use it all, being trained effectively, and then being, going to bed with blood on your sword, so to speak. That the enemy has paid a price today because I've been alive. I've been awake and alive, spiritually so. And I'm going to bed with some blood on my sword. I mean, the enemy is hurting because of the life that the Lord lived through me today in my level of being awake. I mean, there's so much more for us to be doing, is really kind of the emphasis of where I was wanting to go. So I wanted to read from one of my favorite authors, is John Eldredge. And this is an old book now. It's called Waking the Dead. Now he just kind of really speaks my language, but I wanted to read a little bit from it. From this section, it starts out with, "Wake up, O sleeper, be very careful then how you live, because the days are evil. So watch your step, use your head, make the most of every chance you get. These are desperate times." Christianity isn't a religion about going to Sunday school and potluck suppers and being nice. What is being nice? The devil is not impressed with being nice. It's good to be polite and nice, but he's just not afraid of it. And I fear that's what we do, especially with our children. We teach them how to be nice. And anyway, don't get me started here. I don't want them to be mean, but I want them to be dangerous. I want to be dangerous. I want to be more than nice. It's not about that, though. It's not about just these things, like holding car washes and sending our secondhand clothes off to Mexico. As good as those things might be, this is a world at war. Something large and immensely dangerous is unfolding all around us, and we're caught up in it. And above all, we doubt we have been given a key role to play. Isn't that true? We doubt that we are a key player. Well, I promise you this. You're a key player in your spouse's life. You're a key player in your children's lives. You are way more of a key player than you realize. You're a key player in your church. You're a key player in your community, whether you realize it or not. You are way more powerful than you understand because you're an image bearer. I mean, if you guys understood, if we all could understand the capacity of what it means to be an image bearer to God, you're pretty important. You've got a key role to play, and you're the only one that can play it. I want to jump forward here and talk about this spell that we're under, and he tells it by saying it this way: in the silver chair, which is the 6th story of the Narnia series, 2 English school children, Eustace and Jill, are summoned into Narnia to find the missing crown prince of that kingdom. Years earlier, Prince Aurelian was abducted by a witch, placed under a spell, and taken to her underground kingdom. Once a day for an hour, the prince would wake up from the magic spell and realize where he was and who he was and what had happened. But during those hours, he was chained to a silver chair so that he could not escape. So he knew who he was, but he was chained to a silver chair and he couldn't escape. All the other hours of the day he was free because he was convinced that the witch was good and he was her grateful slave, a no-good wretch. So he had an identity crisis there as the spell was over him. Near the climax of the story, the children, with the help of Puddleglum, the Marshwiggle, free the prince from the chair and the power of the spell. Now, if you guys have read some C.S. Lewis and some of the Chronicles of Narnia books, you understand the Marshwiggle and the Puddleglum and all the language he uses, so hopefully you can follow this. But this is from the book. It says, "Then he turned and surveyed his rescuers, and the something wrong, whatever it was, had vanished from his face. 'What?' he cried, turning to Puddleglum. 'Do I see before me a Marshwiggle, a real, live, honest Narnian Marshwiggle?' 'Oh, so you have heard of Narnia after all,' said Jill. 'Had I forgotten it when I was under the spell?' asked the knight. 'Well, that and all other bedevilments are now over. You may well believe that I know Narnia, for I'm Aurelian, Prince of Narnia, and Caspian, the great king, is my father, your royal highness,' said Puddleglum, sinking on one knee, and the children did the same. 'We have come hither for no other end than to seek you. How long have I been under the power of the witch?' 'It is more than 10 years since your highness was lost in the woods at the north side of Narnia.' 10 years, said the prince, drawing his hand across his face, as if to rub away the past. 'Yes, I believe you, for now that I am myself, I can remember that enchanted life, though while I was enchanted, I could not remember my true self.' Wow, though while I was enchanted, I could not remember my true self. That's it exactly. We are under a spell. Guys, the work of the enemy in this day and age, in this day of darkness, and he's the prince of the power of the air. It's as if we're breathing in agents that put us to sleep spiritually. And we have to be so vigilantly fighting for the Spirit of the Lord to awaken, to awaken, to awaken, that we would stand up and be all we are called to be, all that we're created to be, with the application of the cross and the power of the Spirit and the washing of the blood. Stand up in this thing and fight the fight of faith. Utilize the weapons we've been given. Take our responsibilities. And so, I've just been really gripped with this, and today I wanted to remind you guys, getting into alignment with what the Lord has spoken into our lives. Men, to lay down your life for your wife, to love her in that capacity, to seek the Lord as to what that means in fullness, to understand the responsibility that you have as the head of the home, and how to utilize spiritual authority against the enemy, and to fight, to do it. I was reminded of an old Jim Rohn quote that has always stuck with me, but he says, you're going to suffer in this life. This life is suffering, and you're going to suffer. But there's things that you can do that will make that suffering way, way more. But there's some other things you can do that make it a lot less. You can buoy yourself. And he talks about how the discipline is suffering, right? But to suffer through discipline is to suffer properly. I mean, that type of suffering weighs ounces, he says. But he says there's another type of suffering. Suffering regret weighs tons. And when we're talking about our children here, what I'm wanting us to do and what I'm wanting to motivate us towards is to wake up, fully awake, pray for your wife, pray for your kids, pray the authority of God's Word over them. Learn how to kick the enemy in the teeth, get him off of your property, get him out of your house, get him out of your heart. You got to start there, I should say. But fully wake up to what he's doing to you and what he's doing to your kids and all the things you're falling for. Because listen, we're all falling for some things, and we need to wake up. We need to take our authority back, and we need to let Christ be seen shining on us. I believe there's some powerful things that can take place. And so I wanted to encourage you guys to wake up fully and suffer discipline. It's really a blissipline. I've heard it said that, blissipline. It's not discipline when you understand what it is. And see God move in your marriage and in your children's lives. And let that be all you have to pay. It just weighs ounces. Do not let 10 years down the road have come and gone and you didn't suffer that discipline in terms of prayer and waking up and living in truth and living forthrightly and seeing your kids and your marriage and your family suffer at the hands of the enemy and then have that weight of regret. Don't do that to yourself. That's my encouragement today. I'm behind you, and again, I believe God is moving in this church, in the families, and I think some awesome things are on the way. So listen, guys, all you got to do is say, Father, please, would you draw me into this? Draw me into this. With your power, help me, Lord, help me. That's one of the most powerful prayers you can pray sometimes is help. But then you don't stop praying it after we've got to enter into this thing and get going with it. So I'm praying over you guys, believing God's moving in your marriages and in your family. And I'm behind you, and I love you. Bye-bye.